next labs as well and see whether you want to pick some of those ones out to do as well. All right, so just looking at the services, there wasn't that much more to add on to this. One of the labs you could do, but you'd have to do it back in the office, is the security lab. So that allows you to be able to create those secrets inside of the key vault, and that's going to mean that your secrets aren't in plain text there. So when you do that, there's a few additional bits and pieces you need to have a look at. So for example, in that lab I started, see if I've just got the lab still up. Yeah. So as you can see, it's underlined some of these, so I wonder whether there's a bug in there as well. So that might be a good opportunity to try and debug that as well. But the problem we've got is I can run that in my local region too to try that one out for you if you like. So at least you can see how that one works. And if you have a look at the env there, you'll see there's a lot more information associated with that. So not only do you have the endpoint that you had before, but now you have the key vault name and the app ID and password that was generated from the service principal. And then you've got your tenant ID in there. So you've got a lot more information when you're using the key vault for that. And if we have a look at the code, they're bringing in this a bit of an issue there, so I'll see if I can fix that one up. But as you scroll down, you have a look, you can see the credentials there, the key vault clients, and then you can see the key, how they're getting that back. So I suppose that might also be a name that you pass, so you might want to change that default name that they've used there, or they've actually hard-coded that. So that could be perhaps another one of the variables that you put in and read that in at runtime. And then you can see where they're getting the user input until the person says to stop, so that's just in the loop there. And then they're actually just detecting the language for that one. So that one's a pretty simple one, but you can see end to end, so there looks to be an issue there. I wonder if we ask Copilot. Oh yeah, what were you going to say, Jerry?
I've been trying your both REST and the SDK client.
Yeah.
I see the responses are different. The REST much better than the SDK client. Is there any reason?
I, I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So what do you mean it's better? Like it's quicker?
So I tried with REST, like some language options. It approximately gave me good answers, but with SDK clients, the same question, it is keep giving me same language like English, 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 but that's something I don't understand. Like, what's the difference?
Well, I suppose it shouldn't be too much difference. Um, so maybe just the parameters that they're passing. Were the
Um,
parameters quite different between the two that you're using, the SDK versus the REST call?
Not sure.
All right. See if there's anything different there that you can spot. So it's giving you the wrong result. So it's saying it's English when it's not English.
Yes.
Ah, maybe it isn't got the same sort of options that they're using. So if you go in there and have a look and see whether they've passed any other parameters when it comes to, say, this sort of thing, where they're just calling that. If there are any other things, like, see, that one's detecting language. Perhaps when they call the API, they called maybe added something. I don't know, but that's interesting. So it shouldn't, and also the version, I suppose. So there's these ones had different versions. I think if we had a look at the services originally, I'm just going to go and see the REST service.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's 3.1 languages. You hit that post to send a JSON body to that.
yeah.
Yeah, but in SDK client, you do inbuilt method detect language.
Ah, right. So they must be on slightly different versions then. That must be what's happening behind the scenes. I'll see if I can get you any details about using AI with SDK
So
versus
same said, if
yeah.
I didn't want to implement something using language, I prefer using REST line than rather than SDK.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So gone with the one that's better. Yeah, we'll find out why that is. So yeah, I'm not quite sure why that is, but that's a good question. Like that one, I thought it might have come down to the parameters, but yeah, depending on the version that it's picking up by default, could be something quite different there as well. Any other people had any suggestions to on the call for Turandip? Perhaps? No? Okay, oh, that's all right. So, yeah, a little bit about that. Now, I just went on for these instructions. You can actually see the markdowns here in the exercise. But what I did was I preferred to bring up that link I gave you so that I can see the instructions. But unfortunately, like a lot of our labs, they've imposed a lot of policies. So you can't even do the second lab. I suspect lab 4 is also an issue, but I would say that monitoring AI servers would probably work. And that's because if you try to create a container, for example, they might be blocking that as a resource that you can create. So just a bit of a word of warning, if you do some of the labs in the lab environment, you're only meant to do the first one anyway, but I wanted you to be able to experience the other ones as well. It looks like, yeah, it's one of those cases where everybody else mining Bitcoin has ruined it for the rest of us. So unfortunately, you'd have to try that in your own lab as well. The other thing about the labs is usually they work for 6 months, and we've had a few people say they're expiring in January. So it looks like they've put that hard line in the soil. I don't know why. I'll go and see if I can research that as well. All right, I've got some homework there to do now. All right, so let's have a look at managing authentication network settings, having a look at the metrics, look at diagnosing if there's any bottlenecks anywhere in your application solution, and also securing containers and consuming. So this is just a bit of a quick overview there, but you can see in this case, they're using actually the key vaults to grab that information. So rather than it being in plain text, as we said, that second lab would have done that, goes and retrieves it based on the name of the secret and then returns the actual encrypted value, which is then used, and you can use a service principal for managing the identity for that. So that's probably typically what you'd be looking at for the ideal solution for security. If you're just trying something out in development, you might just want to do a quick and dirty secrets. That's okay because it's only something temporary that you're doing anyway. But if you're going for something in production, I would suggest you'd want to try and involve Key Vault there. And of course, when you're looking at the different things to monitor when you're looking for bottlenecks or errors or anything like that, then you've got all of these available. So if you have a look at, just like any other application, if you go into, I think I had it here, right, the multi one, I can come over to here and I can see alerts there. So I can create my own alert rules. So if something like, for example, latency is getting a little bit slow, you can actually go and find the average. You can say where it's greater than or less than, and then perhaps you can then go and set up your own threshold sensitivity. So we can set it to low, medium, or high, and then you'll actually start to see it being used there. And then you can set up every second or every minute you want to check this, and you can look back for the previous 5 minutes, for example, but there's lots of other settings there you can use. And then next you've got to work out, let's see what some of these, you've got also number of violations there. If you go to actions, then you'll want to either email people or maybe you'll just be recording this as well. And I think that's about it. You can set up some alert rules there for the severity that you want there. So critical like Sev 1s through to, Sev 5s or something like that, depending on what your scale is. Anything else there, and then some tags on why you're monitoring that. So that's basically, then you can go in and have a look at your alerts and then the metrics associated with what you want to capture. So over a period of time, of course, you can capture things like the data in and out, any blocked calls, total calls, all these sorts of things you would associate with any applications. So there you go, you can see the sort of transactions coming in per minute, and then you'll actually be able to customize this visualization and pop it onto a dashboard, and then you can have it up on, the infrastructure team could be monitoring that. You could be monitoring that during dev, maybe have it up on a dev wall somewhere, and then monitoring that or having a look at it during your project planning, or even your stand-ups in the morning. And then you've got your dialogue settings there, so you can stream, export the logs, and then you can even use as your machine learning to bring those in and study them, or you can set up your own sort of diagnostic setting there as well. So it just depends how far you want to go with that. And of course, we've got all the logs so that you can go back and have a look at how that's been performing over a greater period of time, perhaps. So that's where you can then organise and see whether there's any patterns, like some sort of seasonal pattern, for example, that might be really useful to uncover a major blockage, or a maze, or maybe even detect, flooding of denial of service attacks and things like that of information. So I know that that would be captured somewhere else, but that might be an interesting thing to actually see happening as well, and see how long it takes you to recover that as part of your disaster recovery plan. So that could be good. And then the containers. Of course, with the containers, it's all about repeatability and having all of the things set up in your development environment, in your production environment, and your UAT environment, depending on how many regions you have. And then you can you'll have repeatability there. So if you're using a dev, you might use your local containers. And if you're going to production, then you could be using possibly Azure container instances, but probably more likely going to be using Kubernetes services, clusters, and just going to make sure your operating system, the version of your code, the version of all your packages, all your different service information are all the same. Tarandeep, what were you going to say?
Yeah, well, thanks, Jane. So my question is on the previous slide. So
Oh, yep. Sorry
for
about
the
that.
monitoring and alerts thing.
Yep.
So let's say while I'm setting up my AI for some of my implementation, and I want to restrict the number of tokens because I want to like limit the cost of my use of my AI. Can I do
Yep.
that?
I don't know whether you can set that up here or via policies. So I'll see if I can find out a little bit more information. Does anyone know on the call? So if you want to limit the use of your AI tokens, or how many you can have, how many calls you can have in an hour, I suppose, I suppose you could always look at the logs and then have an alert in place when looking for that usage, and then maybe some sort of automated job using, the automation tools, Logic Apps. I don't know whether we'd use those to actually stop something, perhaps, or at least warn somebody that you're getting high usage, and maybe we're exceeding our costs and things like that. So yeah, you could possibly do that, but I'll find out a little bit more for you then. Yes, that's a good one. So limit the calls, for cost reasons, for example, rather than a bottleneck in the resources itself. Good one. Any other questions so far? So there you can see in that example, you'd pick up your whole DevOps sort of resource, or all the collective resources into the container. You'd have some sort of image that you can deploy, and then of course when you bring it back into development, you might not want to go the full Kubernetes cluster in development. So that's where I said you can use a local Docker container image and a container. I suppose the risk there is it might be slightly different. You have the same components, but the implementation is obviously a little bit different. So it's not strictly like for like as production as development, but it'll give you a good idea how to track some of the services, and also track any problems associated with that. So we've got the client app sending data to the container to receive a response, and then you can also see the usage metrics required for billing are sent to the AI services resource in Azure there. So that's basically, you need that container to communicate, to send the billing data there. All right, so that's a little bit on containers. Now, that next exercise, I think we've got time for that. That one there is actually available, so you can use that last service. If you still got your lab running, you could possibly just use the one you already got running, but you might run out of time. That's the only catch. So this one, I think this one's going to go to AI services. Let's just double check that. I'm just going to go back and make sure it's the same one. Yep. Okay, so we're going to be looking at user container number 4. And if we come down to here, if you launch that lab, the instructions will be over here. But if you decide to reuse the one you've got, maybe not, because see, that's up to 13 minutes. I probably started about the same time as you. You're not going to have enough time to do that. So I would launch another service for that. But if you started it late and you've got maybe half an hour, I'd continue with that. So we'll break at past. That should give us enough time. Any questions? Actually, I might just go to the Q&A before we do the lab, seeing as I saw there was a knowledge check there. Okay, quick Q&A, A, B, or C. How are client applications typically granted access to an Azure AI service endpoint? Is it the application must specify a valid subscription? Do you need subscription information? The user of the application must enter a user name and password associated with the usual subscription, or do we use AI services as granted to autonomous users by default? So I think you can rule out two there. Hopefully, A, B, or C. It's okay if you don't want to do the quiz as well. Deep's having a go. Yeah, well done. Okay, good work. So a few people have gone for A. Sorry about that, I brought it up a bit too quick there. I didn't think anyone was answering, so I was a bit fast. Sorry about that. So well done. Daryl was probably going to say the same thing, which is good. You want to keep track of how often the subscription keys for your Azure AI services resource are retrieved. So Deep's gone for C on that. What should you do? Generate the keys, create an alert, store the keys in the key vault. So might not be quite right. So keep track of how often the subscription keys for your AI services resources are retrieved. So that's interesting. It isn't actually C. Although that would record it, so I can't see why that wouldn't be allowed. But it is actually saying B. So create an alert for your Azure AI services. So that's how you keep track of it. Okay, so that was a little bit unexpected. We were all thinking it was going to be C, but it was actually B for that one. So you can record that. But I would have said the metrics would have been available in here as well. You plan, I'm going to double check that. You plan to use an Azure AI services container for a local Docker host. Which of the following is true? Client applications must pass a subscription key to the Azure resource endpoint before using the container. All data passed from the client application to the container is forwarded to the Azure resource endpoint, or is it the container must be able to connect to the Azure resource endpoint to send usage data for billing? So I think we did talk about that. Not quite sure what those answers were. I've lost track of when people were answering there. So A. Quite right, A isn't right. So I did talk about this one, especially around the event. One of the things you have to do with the container is the billing. So it is C for that one. So sorry about that. All right, so it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It's okay. It's just it's good practice for the exam, and it's a good way for me to tell, just revisit the content one more time as well. So we had a look at artificial intelligence. We had a look at how to create them. We also looked at where it fit in the overall scheme and looked at responsible AI. Then we started out with service, and we saw all the different types of services as well. And then we went into some of the application considerations around keys, key vault and container, and also around metrics and how to log all that information. All right, let's go back to the lab. So I think you've got plenty of time for that. And we'll go at past. Any questions so far? Now I'm going to kill off mine, seeing it's just no questions. So see how you can extend it.
I have a question.
Yeah,
So
go
for
for it.
key vault, key vault, I haven't it set up for that yet. So could you just show me where to set those key vault in?
Yeah, so the key vault, the instructions are actually in that lab. So I started doing that one. So let me see if I've still got that up and we can maybe do that. If you want to start the lab though, that's okay too. I think I'm a bit worried you might run out of time. Also note that this is actually, see how that's extending there? I can extend that twice, but I'm not going to bother with this one. I'm going to start again. So let me go and set up the key vault example while you're doing the lab, and then maybe we can do that just before lunch. So because that lab does not work right. So let me just go and get the instructions, and I'll do that after. Is that okay, Turanjit? If we try the lab first for containers, and then and then we'll do it that order. We'll have 15 minutes at the end just to do a quick demo then. Okay, so go back to the lab.
You're recommending to restart the lab, right?
Yeah, restart the lab. The reason I say that is there's only a small amount of prep work, and I think you'll run out of time otherwise. So you might have to cancel this. You can see it's got cancel required there. So that's the previous one, and I'm going to launch. Oh yeah, I was going to launch the lab again. You're right. We could have stayed in there, but I think we're going to run out of time. So launch the lab again. Same lab. I just realised it was the same lab. Cool. All right, let's restart that timer. So we'll do a 30-minute timer for the container, and then I'll get that information for you on the key vault. Okay, so let's go to lab timer, and we will save 15:15, and then we'll do a demo for the last 15. So you'll just have to repeat the creation of the service. It's funny because the instructions aren't in here. You have to use your own instructions. So, see, the container one isn't in here. So I was expecting you would have to, relaunch a different lab. That's okay. We can get the instructions for you. So I'm going to go and get those now. Open this hyperlink. And then it's basically the instructions for this one. I just usually put them over the top of there like that. Minimize that as much as possible. Oh, I've got connection issues on mine now. So it'll be this one here, use an Azure. So when you go in here, it's the one I've got underlined. So unfortunately, you have to get instructions from over here and go through those here and then have this on this page. And you can actually take this off and split it and put it somewhere else because you're not going to use that. You're going to use this one. So that's a nice way to do it. Lock that up. And I can pretend it's just a lab. Alright, so just waiting for this to come up.
Hey Jen, could you please post the URL of the site you're using?
Oh yes, yeah. So I put that one in the chat. Oh, I don't know why it's not in there anymore. That one there.
Image here. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I just put the image here. Sorry about that. I put it in earlier, but I don't think anyone noticed that one. Okay, so the problem here is you're going to be using the user, so at least grab the user from the instructions. You can sort of overlay that there if you want and put in the password. So if you hit the T, at least it's going to go into the right one. So just keep your other one there when you need it. And you're going to start up VS Code. and start up Azure as well. Just going into Azure. Do that. Just bring this in and then I can copy that into Azure. What am I doing? And then put in this user. And this password. That's probably all I'll need from this to instructions. That's somewhere else. Okay, so now we're going to go through this. So a little bit of a blurb about the Docker container. Oh, there is an issue currently being investigated that some users hit the containers won't deploy properly. Alright, so we've got a bit of an issue there. Update to this lab will be as soon as the issue can be resolved. We'll go and check that one out as well and see if they're getting close to that. So let's go to here and we'll do what we did before. Control P, git clone. And copy and paste that in. That pasted okay. Looks like the pasting works in this lab, so they've left that turned on. You don't need the T. And just cloning that and putting it in the default area of the C drive. Same as we did before. There's a rest test command there. Cool. So it's going to need.
Insane. Do we need to reconfigure everything again?
Yes. So you'll have to create the service, and so all the instructions should be here anyway. So it says if you don't already have one, you can provision that. I just didn't feel like there was enough time. You could have done it in there. Next time I run this, I'll probably run both together, I think. So, yeah, let's get started. Yeah. So I think you can go and create that resource group. Not the resource group, you've already got that. So let's services, multi-service. And create. Group 1. 1410. Anyway. Create. So just don't worry too much about the other options. Just create a vanilla one with all the defaults and then create. There's the instructions for that anyway, and then the keys and the endpoint in you. It looks like we're going to be creating a container instance next. So while that's creating, we can go and do that. So we're not using Kubernetes for this, just creating a Azure container instance. None, standard, other registry, and go and image. Go. Linux and one, so change the size to 8 GB. Gigabytes and one virtual CPU. Yeah, okay, and next. So networking, we're going for public, a DNS enter container endpoint. So and then we've got the ports. We'll just leave that as default. Change the TCP IP port from that to 1000. Okay, next monitoring. Restart failure on policy. Not on this page, no. It's in the advanced. Networking, monitoring, alright, advanced. Yes. Your key. We've got to go and get the service. So I'm just going to go create another portal. This one is the billing, yes. No. Yellow. Okay. Review and create. Validation check. This is saying that I wasn't allowed to create that based on the policy. There's an error there. We said we might have errors, right? Message the template deployment failed with multiple errors. Request disallowed by policy. Yeah, so it looks like they put the policy there. Well, that should be relatively easy to remove. But it looks like they've stopped us from being able to do that in the lab environment. So I think we might have to do a couple of these basically in my Azure subscription so that you can see them that's not working. So I did say right at the top, it's good to go through the process though. They did say right at the top that you may not be able to do that, so it won't be able to deploy the containers. But we tried it. We did most of the work. So what did it say there? Please note that deploying typically takes 5 to 10 minutes, and of course ours failed. So you're looking for the status to see it's running, the IP address, and the fully qualified domain name there. Didn't work. So then you can go docker run. Okay, and then you can test that out using rest test command. That's a real bummer. All right, let's try it in my environment so we can at least see the results there. So let's give that a go.
Hey, Jen,
yeah.
While creating a container, I'm not getting the option you are having. Once I logged in, it says there's a container created. The tenant is now, so I click on create resource, and I don't know why it's not same as you.
So what? Wonder what's different here. So you got yes, yes, no, API key, billing, and EULA. That's just the, accepting the.
So when I click on create container instance, it's asking me to choose something. Welcome to Azure, don't have subscription, and something like that.
Yeah. Have you got this? Let's have a look at your screen then. We'll go into your session there, I think. You come to here. There you go. There you are.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, because your isn't even set up. So if you go, you're logging with your local one. That's why your own login rather than the resource one there.
Okay, that might be the problem. Okay,
yeah.
Log out and then.
Yeah, so you probably will get the same problem we had. Just take that off the screen. So what I'll do is we will just go into that service and just so I've got the instructions, and then we'll go and do it in. That's not right. We'll go and do it in the. Yeah. So let's go into. Go and create container instance again. So I already had the AI services set up, so that should be easy. I'll create the container instance inside my subscription so you can at least see what's going on. Oh, you're off mute there, Chundi. I'm not sure if you have a combo there. So we'll call that AI container on now. Police zone standard. Leave that all at standard. It's a little bit different. So other registry. Don't want a spot good discount. What else? Was that public or private? I'll just double check. Public. And then Linux, and then this is what we changed to be 8. Okay, so next, networking, not now. So the next thing was register public, correct, image, let's copy that, and the DNS label, JLAI. Oh, Yes. Tenants, and then we were meant to edit this to be 5,000. So next with the monitoring. Now, doesn't seem like we've been able to put in an image for this one either, or that's in advance. The subscription, log analytics, so that we got it properly audited, and then those restart. Why didn't I have the image set up? We should use quick start images there. Completely missed that step. So I think everything else is set up. Now, next, and then we'll go yes. And then that's API key. Do billing there as well. And no, and then just go and grab the Azure there. I'm going to the services. I don't want that. Go and grab the service that I've got. Okay, so keys, copy, put that in here, and endpoint. Go and grab that. Okay, we're ready to go. And review and create. So hopefully I won't get a nasty policy error. And then we can continue on, create. Just going to go into VS Code locally. And I've got this version, so that's, might as well get a later version of that one. Okay, so then I'm going to go, oops, that's not right. And set tree up. And go into here. And that's the one we're going to be using. Okay, so that's review and create. And hopefully when this is finished, you'll be able to see it. Okay, so let's go back to that. I'm going to close down that other one so it wasn't confusing. And the container didn't take very long to provision at all, actually. And it didn't take 15 minutes. So some of the things we can see there is the status it's running. As we said, IP address. In there. Your bands is fully qualified domain name. It's turned off. Subscription ID. so then we're going to run this. So I think we're running that from the command from Docker run. See, let's have a look at that. What's it saying there? So let's just put that in Notepad for now. Points. Filling an API key. So where did I get that? I think from the original service, right? Definitely not there. All right, so let's go to here. Copy that. And the endpoint there. Sure, that's right. What's it say after that? Use the container, open the REST test command, and edit the curl command. It contains blah, 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 blah. So that's where we haven't got that right. Let's go over to here. ACI IP address. I didn't have that information though when I looked, so it isn't fully deployed. No, it says it's running. Any ideas? Anyone on the call? This one? You on there? When everyone's dropped off?
Yeah, I'm still getting my container in the instance.
Is it getting an error or?
Yeah, I get a validation check there. I'm trying to look into that adjustment steps. So I need to see which error it is.
I think it's probably a policy violation, right? That one.
You're very ahead from me. I'm seeing which error I'm getting. Sure. Everything looks alright. Can you check for me, please?
Yeah, I'll come into yours. Mine doesn't have a IP address or FQ. the domain. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, so let's have a look at it. So you might have that same problem with the policy. So yeah, so you're up to. Did you want me to look at the previous steps? So you got the key, billing endpoint, the API key, and and on failure, monitoring, network, units label, tenants, 5,000, public, and then in the basic container, but the standard quick. So you did quick start images as well, where it was talking about other registries. So that was the only difference I can see. I think instructions mention other registry for that one. And you've got 16, they only wanted 8, but it's okay. So I suppose that's the only other thing you might want to change, but anything else is fine. Well, that one actually said, I think it said other registry. Let me just double check. So if we go up here, did it say other registry? Yeah, other registry. That was the only thing I could see which was different.
And what about the it says rate limit something warning message? I change the size for it.
8, yeah, 8 was the size it was talking about. So if you see that 8 GB,
We can do 1 to 16.
I think it'll be all right. But you might have got 8, yeah. So I think everything else looked correct.
Yeah.
Everything else looked fine. I just double check that one as well. The image, just double check the image as well. Just on that first page, if the image is right. You haven't got your image either. I forgot that as well. So there's an image, which is this one here, MCR, Microsoft, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, copy that and paste.
Yeah.
Did you paste it? Please?
Oh, yeah, okay, I'll go and do that. I wonder if I can. Should be alright. No, I can't paste that. So I can go like this though. I'll do that. I'll do this. It's alright. Do that. Oops. That's alright. I think I might have pasted it, but just double check.
Oh, no, it's still can.
No, alright, okay.
That's right.
Yeah, the other way you can paste it is to do, yeah, it's easier to paste it from there though. Yep, alright, that looks good. So I think everything else was fine.
Can I click on event right?
Yep. But if you got the same error that we got, which was the policy was blocking us from creating a container, so you should get an error now. Although yours is taking a lot longer. No, yeah. You've got a validation error check, so it means that they've put in a policy there to stop you from being able to do it. So you're in the same boat that I tried in the lab. It didn't work. So I then thought, all right, well, we'll try it in my own subscription. But now I'm having issues with the subscription. So if I go back in here, I should have seen a IP and the domain name there as well, and they're not there. So maybe if I restart it, just give it a go. So I need that information in order to set up the next step, and it's not there. So I don't know why. Hasn't got the IP address there. Go to the properties and see if there was anything. Yeah, see, it hasn't got the DNS name in there they originally had. It just doesn't look like it's worked. So, yeah, so you got the same disallowed policy. So that means that they've put a policy on that subscription in the lab. Now, mine's not working either. I don't know why it's not working, but it didn't create, it says it's running, so it says the status is correct, but the IP address and the FQN DN aren't there, and I really need those to do the next step, so it doesn't.
And you ran the shell command then. There's one instruction for the shell command. When did you run it? At what point do you need to run this?
I didn't run it yet because it didn't work. So that was the one that's the instruction, isn't it? 1 minute. Oh, maybe that's the mistake I made as well. You just go.
We need to run that prior to doing all this, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem I was having. So this is this one right down the bottom, which is the Docker. Well, actually, I didn't run that. So, but that's just got. Oh, well, maybe that is. Observe the following properties. So these weren't set. So these two weren't set. So there's a problem with it. You've deployed the container instance. Similar approach deployed using Docker. So maybe this is the Docker approach. It is too. So they're showing you the Docker approach to putting it in there. Let's try it. So let's go back to
Yeah, rather than following all the steps, let's use a Docker container, isn't it?
Yeah, so if I go to here, we can just use that. So I think I've still got that in the note, but I'm just going to go into the PowerShell, or I could have gone into VS Code, I think, as well, if I'm connected okay to Azure, and then pick for that. That was a bit of a fizzer. Paste, and we want to set up the endpoint and the key. I think is all we need there. So let's go and grab that again. So I'm going to go to JRAI and that key and paste that in there. And then the next one there, I'm going to go to the end and paste the, oh sorry, that was the API key. The other one was the endpoint. I did them the wrong way around. So that has to be in a bash shell. That's what I did. So let me just copy that back out. Copy that. I'm going to copy that to Notepad so I don't have to type it in again. I went into the PowerShell and this is a bash. Try that one more time. The term Docker is not recognized as the name of the command line. So maybe they did run that in. Has anyone else tried this? Is this working for you? I'm going to try running it in VS Code again. But then I would have to have this set up to do it. So, the VS Code must have crashed. Go back. Open that window I set up before. Sure, ML services. Oh no, that's the right one. So let's have a look at the files. So it goes in the wrong area. Okay, so I don't know whether it's going to work in here though. I don't think it will. Paste. No, it's not letting you run it in here either. So I can't create the Docker container either, even though it was getting cut off before. I don't think it's going to work. Yeah, so it's not working there either. So I'm having trouble with that. All right, looks like it was a bit of a fizzer. So let's do the last bit, which was we were going to try and set up the container, not the container, the key vault. So to set up the key vault, that would have been, did I set the key vault up? I don't think I did. So let's go and create
a quick query.
Yeah.
So you're getting the same error, the Docker is command not found.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm hitting the same. Could we install the Docker here and then run the command? Try it?
Yeah, we could. Or possibly in the VS Code. So that's Visual Container Instances deployed. So quick start for bash shell. That's just a quick start in general. So create a resource group, which we already have. Create a container. No, that's just doing a Azure container. That's doing exactly what we did through so container instance, which I think has Docker underlying it, but okay, so Docker install Azure. No, they're just doing it through the Cloud Shell. So sorry, they're just doing it as the they're doing it through the shell command, but they're just creating AZ container instead of Docker. So I think we need something else. We need a different shell. Where can I run? See if we can get that. Still can get Copilot there. See if it responds. Yeah, I think we might. What else did you want to try, Trinity?
I'm just looking at how we can run a Docker command.
Yeah. So yeah, the way they're doing it is just creating an Azure container, which is the same. There you go. Herbo needs to drop off. So we're just about to drop off at past.
Yeah, so let's look at Azure keyword and then we can look into Docker later.
Yeah, we might have run out of time. I think we've only got 4 minutes for the key vault, but yeah, we can go back to that and find out why that's not working. So the Docker, do it through the manual process, but also the way it was not working through either way was not working in mine. So it looks like there's a bit of a problem there. I'm not quite sure what's going on. They did mention at the beginning of it that there could be issues though. So let's have a look at that next step of the key vault one. So
if you look at the error, Jane, the error says that we are only allowed to use Azure Cognitive Services, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So while we're creating an instance, can we restrict ourselves to that only so that our instance get created?
In the lab.
Yeah.
No, there's set a whole policy that you can't create any containers in there.
Okay.
So yeah, that whenever they put a policy on the labs, it usually means you can't. Yeah, there's no way to even change it because they're trying to stop people from doing fraudulent things. But unfortunately, sometimes that means that the labs are too strict and they couldn't do it. But so normally you would have people setting up policies for these sorts of things as well in your workplace about what you could create and what you couldn't. And they've just gone a little bit overboard with the labs at the moment with security. So that's why I was thinking the only way we could really try it is to try our own subscription for that one, which is a bit of a bummer because this worked fine before. It's just that they've had to enact all these policies. So yeah, it's really annoying when you're trying to do a lab and that happens. That's part of the security world I think we live in at the moment. We need to be more aggressive with our security stance, unfortunately. So the only other thing, I think we've got a couple of minutes, so I would have just gone into here and created the key vault for the other one. So let's go and grab that. So I'll get the instructions for you on that one as well. So let's just go and copy that. Copy, and we'll put it in here. And then we're going to be looking at this security one here. So that's the instructions for this one. That over there, and then we'll set up the key vault. And if we don't get it finished today, we can always sneak the demo in somewhere when we've got a quiet moment as well. So first step is to go and create the key vault, I think. I think that they were just playing around with swapping keys here, just to show you that you could swap keys. That was all that they were trying to do. So that one there is just listing out the keys for the service. And then they're basically just using curl to call the service just to make sure it worked. And then they run this REST test, which is just that one that we were looking at before. So I sort of went through all of that in the lab, but then I thought, all right, so we want to be able to maybe regenerate the keys. There you can see an example where they're using the command to actually regenerate, command shell to regenerate the keys, and then they're retesting that. So this is the key vault section. So that's what they've done up until that point. So we're going to create key vaults, and put that in the same resource group as the one I've got here. So just search for key vaults, creates, and we'll put it in the same resource group. JR AI-102 key vault. If I haven't created one before. In Australia, East Standard, days through 90, enable disable purge protection. So allow key vault and objects to be purged during retention period or enforce a mandatory retention period. Okay, let's have a look at next. And I don't think there are any things to permission model, vault, access policy, and then scroll down and you look at access policies, look for the user, so that's me, JR, and then I can use that to, as a person that can actually go and get list update. I think you can do more fine-grained security if you prefer in here, but we've just sort of given it the hit it with a hammer approach. And then I'm going to say review and create. And then you go and add the secret, I think, after that. So let's hit create. That's the first step. And then we'll go in and secrets. We're almost there. I think we're just about to go to lunch. So I'll just wait for this to come back. And then you can select secrets. Yeah, I might stop it there, seeing as it's going to take a little while. All right, we might continue that when we get back from the break, and people want to see that one. All right, sure. So yeah.
How long the break will be?
Yeah.
How long the break?
Oh, for lunch. Yeah. So we've got an hour for lunch anyway, and when we come back, we'll look at the key vault. Keep up with the key vault because that wasn't working in the labs, and people want to see that. And then we'll also look at computer vision this afternoon, so getting exciting there. All right, let me start the timer. So thanks for your patience on this one. Sometimes things just don't go right in the labs.
If you keep the lab open, it automatically ends up, right? Or do we need to close
it ends itself, yeah, it ends up, it just stops, yeah. So it stops after an hour and a half if you extended it twice, otherwise it'll just stop, yeah. All right, I will see you back in an hour. Did anyone have any questions before we go to the break? All right, enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you back soon. for more AI. Cool. See you soon.